There we go. We record everything, as you know, and thank you so much for coming tonight. And we're going to have a fabulous mastermind session. And it's so great to have so many people join already. And I see some really veterans over here. Derek, brother Derek, who has lost he gave up, should I say, W-2 job, who left his W-2 job. And now he's, doing great. And surgeon, Harsha is coming in. Look at that, from St. Louis. Harsha, so nice to see you, brother. Wow. So it's good to have, friends join today. Daryl is there. Daryl, hi, Daryl. Daryl has been investing with me for 10 years, 11 years now. And Dave Mulvaney, my good friend and a great partner now, because we are doing so many great things together from Jacksonville right there. Diego is from Lodi right here. He just joined our academy just 2 weeks back, and really welcome you. And Daryl and Carol, they both joined. Thank you so much. And Dr. Jeff is coming in. Hold on. Boy, wow. I'm glad to have Jeff, my other partner, coming in. We are doing some series of videos together to attract ultra rich people. So Dr. Jeff, has a great platform. He's been on interview with Grant Cardone and Will Wright, our friend Tom Will Wright, I think. Oh, okay. There are more people coming in. Excellent. It's going to be Fahad is here. Hello, Fahad. How are you, brother? Raj Rudra is here from Tampa. Nice to have you, Raj, brother. Oh, right. Daniel is coming in from Bakersfield. Awesome. Fabulous. And Fahad just moved from, I think, Los Angeles all the way. Hey, Daniel, brother.
Hi, guys. How you doing? Hi, Vinney. How are you?
Look at this. These graduates from the academy are coming back. I love it.
How you guys doing?
Doing well. Daniel, congratulations on your successes, man.
Thank you.
You're feeling it. You're crushing it, brother.
We've got one we're working on now. It'll be my first big one. So
wow. Excellent.
It's going good, but we have made a lot of progress. We're working on a lot of different things.
Sure.
Oh, great to see you again, Vinney. You look great.
Oh my gosh, I was on interview with several teams today. So I said, let me dress up. I know I should be dressing like this every day, which I'm going to do it. Even though I've got, my, what you call sweatpants underneath, with the so I'm casual and also business,
Yeah.
Good.
Barefoot with my, socks on, but it's all counts, because we had so many meetings with brokers, with, the loan people, and then on the podcast, and great friends. David also interviewed me today on his show. So it was wonderful. The day was action-packed. Oh, I've got to let other people in too. Okay, let's get started. I think it's going to be a lot of people will be joining as we go on. I'll keep on admitting them. So we're going to just take care of some housekeeping. Hey, Jay is here. Brother Jay is here. Matt is here. Hold on. Effie is coming in. All right. We're going to have some great meeting tonight. It's going to be awesome. And Shallow is here. Look at that, from Austin, Texas. My brother from over there in the hotel industry, hospitality, and partner. And Matt is here. Oh, Harry's coming in. Harry, welcome, brother. All right. Look at that.
Where's John and Ethan?
Yeah, I know. Ethan is traveling. Can you believe it? And John is too. I think he's busy in certain things, so he wouldn't be here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that.
Is he not hosting anymore?
Huh? Pardon?
Is he not hosting anymore, John?
Yeah, John is not hosting. He's going on his own, which is great. I want him to be very successful.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hey, Vinney never stops anybody. I want eagles to come and learn the business and fly away. That's
Hey,
my number one thing,
you're a great coach, Vinny. I mean,
Thank,
I always give you kudos anytime I talk to somebody new or anything like that. And
thank you.
I'm always trying to promote you in one way or another.
Oh, I appreciate that. I know there are a lot of personal coaching students are flying. Robert, I should say last name. I mean, he'll be raising 100 million this year. 100 million. He raised 30 million last year. He just joined me about a year back. Oh my gosh.
The developer, right? The developer.
He's crushing it. Yeah, developer. You know him. Yeah, Robert P. Yes.
Well, Johannes is here. He's joining now.
Oh my gosh, look at this here. This is the best class we are having here. I'm so glad. All right. So, again, I welcome everybody joining. And it's such a pleasure to have you all. And I know a lot of people I'll meet everybody because that way, there is no disturbance. And Saf is just coming in. Look at that. Oh my gosh, that is great. I'll keep on bringing people in as we get bigger and bigger. But I want to go ahead and share the screen right now because I have to take care of a little bit something, which is Microsoft tonight's agenda and everything. My attorneys tell me, they say, Vinney, before you do anything, start teaching. You got to cover yourself. I know you have ideas, but we want to make sure. So let me go back over here. You can all see it, right? Yeah, everybody can. Yep. So, I could do it, or Dave, I know you had shared it this
Sure, morning. I'll read it. You just go to the next slide.
Okay, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate that. And there it is, the next slide. If it lets me do it, let's see here. There we go. Yeah.
All right. So I want to welcome Ted Lanzaro. First and foremost, really looking forward, Ted, to hearing you today. But so welcome to Vinny's Mastermind. And look, we're going to talk about topics of real estate. We're going to talk about some taxes today. And this is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as legal, accounting, or investment advice. This is not an offer to sell or a solicitation to offer to purchase an investment or security. The information presented tonight is believed to be accurate and reliable. We make no representation or warranties expressed or implied as to the accuracy of such information, and we expressly disclaim any and all liability that may be based on such information or errors or omissions thereof. And of course, consult your own attorney, financial advisor, CPA for legal matters, investments, and specific tax situations. In other words, if you're going to invest money, do your own research. We just say it that way. Okay, good.
Totally. All right, there we go.
So, look, live with passion, live with purpose. That's a quote. And live with passion. That's it. I can't. Even with my glasses on, Vinny, I don't think I could read who that's quoted. But live with passion is something Tony Robbins says. You become what you believe. That's truth. Falling down is an accident. Staying down is a choice. Very true. And don't focus on the pain. Focus on the progress. As an all-American gymnast, I can tell you that if you focus on the pain, you get stuck. You progress through the pain, and you can go to all sorts of heights and be the best version of you that whatever that version is supposed to be the best that you can be. So awesome, Vinny. It's all yours. And again, welcome to the call, Ted.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I just wanted to see, I think it's the last one. Oh, there it is. I do want to say a lot of new people are here. Please look into the book. I think we have to change the picture now. It's got 500 million here, the new cover and so forth. If you would like a free copy of the book, anybody walking and watching us right now, you could go to vinnychopra.com/free book. And some of you probably already know, but we are giving away, the e-copy of the book. I want it to be in the hands of 1 million people. That's my goal. And of course, the hardback is there. The Spanish version is there, and the soft version and Kindle and audio. 5 ways you could read this, whole material. My positivity book is also, I've added more to it. It's going to be relaunching very soon. So that's another one. And then again, my third book is coming, Senior Living Investing, which we are making big strides in. And again, my, podcast, which is weekly, we are doing 3 times a week now with a lot of guests. And then of course, my Vinney and Bo show live show on Friday. That's it. So let's go to brother Ted. Ted, welcome, brother. It's such a honor to have you. And I want to introduce Ted. I'll just stop sharing. Oh, wow. Somebody take a picture of, can everybody put their cameras on for one time so that we could take a picture all together? Yeah, please put your camera on one time only, and then you could, go off. So there we are. All righty, Raj, Rudra, come on, Raj, brother. Okay, there we go. We took it. And one more. There we go. Okay, now you could hide. No. Stay there. But the thing is, see, we want to have fun today. Ted is such a great friend, and he's one of the best real estate CPA, I know in USA. And I'd like to introduce you to him. Ted taking time today to be with us for an hour, 15 minutes, let's say. Ted Lanzaro is a certified public accountant, real estate investor, real estate broker, author, and speaker for over 30 years actually of real estate tax consulting and investing experience. He runs Lanzaro CPA LLC, a boutique CPA firm specializing in accounting and taxation for the real estate industry. That's one thing I like. And a lot of CPAs are just regular CPAs, but Ted is the heart of real estate. For the past 30 years, he has helped thousands of real estate businesses, owners, entrepreneurs, and investors all over the United States implement cutting-edge tax strategies and save them thousands of dollars annually on their taxes. Mr. Lanzaro is the author of the Tax Smart Landlord and the Tax Smart toolkit, as well over 100 articles on taxation for the real estate he has written. So welcome, Ted. It's glad to have you. I'm looking forward to kind of relearning what you have been teaching me and my students and everybody. So welcome.
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, I want to show you that I've got your book right here, right? It's funny because I literally had it sitting on my desk because my son, I gave it to my son to read and he gave it back to me the other day, right? So he finally finished it, right? Remember, I don't know if you remember me telling you he was reading it. So I'm getting my son involved in real estate investing. So, I mean, I've got, I could probably, if you want me to throw up a PowerPoint and do a little presentation.
Sure. I think it'll be great.
That's fine. I can do it. I can just talk, whatever you guys actually prefer.
And we can get the chat running too. We got chat also, Ted. So, we'll be able to kind of have some questions and we'll answer them. But maybe you want to start with the PowerPoint. You can share, brother. That'll be great. Yeah.
While Ted's doing that, let's just say, if anybody has any questions, just put them in the chat.
Yeah.
And I'll keep an eye on the questions, and we'll make sure that everybody, as much as possible, gets their questions answered today. So just put them in the chat, and we'll get them answered.
Yes, please.
Oh, okay, here it is. I'm sorry.
Okay, there we go. Perfect.
Okay, so you can see that?
Yep. It's coming.
Okay, great. Okay.
Oh, we are there. Yes, we are there.
So Vinney already did this, but so I'll just tell you a little bit for those of you, I know a few of you, but for those of you who don't know me, I have been a real estate CPA for 30 years now. This is my 30th tax season working with investors, and I've been an investor for myself for most of that time. I was at one time a very active landlord and developer, flipper. And now I do mostly passive investing, and I also run a commercial real estate brokerage, which sources properties for my investor clients. You can get, for anybody who wants a copy of my tax strategy book, the Tax Smart Landlord, it's available on my website, which is Lanzaro, which is now actually landmarkcpagroup.com, but LanzaroCPA.com will get you there also. I just actually merged and took on a partner to help me with personal returns because I was I was the bottleneck because I'm doing all the heavy lifting. So I was bottlenecking my whole operation here. But anyway, this is what we're going to talk about tonight. Because for those of you who are involved in syndications and doing syndications, or just involved in joint ventures, doing your own real estate deals, there's some pretty important topics that I want to touch on tonight. The first one is qualifying, if you can qualify and how you can qualify as a real estate professional, because essentially that's the holy grail of being a real estate investor. Because if you're a real estate professional, then you're allowed to take all the depreciation losses that you can muster up against not only your real estate income, but also real estate related capital gains and your ordinary earned income, which really can have amazing results. And we'll talk about a little bit about that in a minute. We'll also talk about how to maximize depreciation with a cost segregation study, which is how we're getting all of this depreciation these days, and what's going to happen with bonus depreciation over the next few years. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about something that I spent a lot of time with today, which was going through one of my clients' CapEx and trying to convince them that most of it was repairs and could be expensed immediately instead of being capitalized and depreciated over 27 and a half years. And we'll talk about items that the IRS always considers repairs. And then for some of you guys who are syndicators and are taking acquisition fees, we'll talk a little bit about why using an S corp could be really good for that, right? And then we'll talk a little bit about entity structure, and then we'll just take some questions, we'll do it pretty quickly. I do, by the way, Vinney, I apologize, but I do have a hard stop at about 8:05.
Oh, are you? Okay, sure. No worries.
Ed, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Do you cover foreign entities also?
I typically don't work with foreign entities. So that's, and the reason that is, I'm actually, when I say that, I actually do get more involved than I'm telling you, but it's not something that I specialize in. I often have to seek outside counsel. So like, for example, right now I'm working with a group of Israeli investors, and I'm working with their Israeli CPA to find a solution to a specific problem. It's not something I love particularly.
Got it. Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, please. And anybody who wants to interrupt, please feel free. Just, even if you just want to throw it on the chat or something, so I can see it. And I have no agenda but to help you guys. So the first thing I want to tell you though, is that everybody's different, right? So on this call, we may have some business owners, we may have some W-2 employees, we may have some people like, was it Derek, who just quit his W-2 and is now a business owner, real estate. You can have real estate business owners. We have people who are landlords, potentially developers, people who are doing flips, people who are buying properties and doing syndications. So it runs the gamut of the things that you could be doing. It makes a difference if you're married or single, what your other income is, what your goals and limitations are. There's a lot of times I can tax plan you so good you'll never get a loan. Right, so it's just one of those kind of things. Sometimes we have to balance out tax strategy with ability to grow your portfolio. How many properties do you have, and whether what type of investor you are, whether you're a passive investor, an active investor, or a real estate professional. And the difference, and I'll just start with this. So passive investors are investors who invest in other people's deals for essentially a return on their investment, right? And they do it for the cash flow, and because they don't necessarily want to be hands-on investors, right? They just want to get in the game. And as a syndicator, that's important to you because you want to be able to attract these passive investors. And so there's a whole set of thought processes around what a passive investor can and cannot do. Well, the first thing a passive investor can't do is they can't take real estate losses against their active income. That's basically the definition of a passive investor. So when you're out, if you're a syndicator and you're out there selling tax benefits to your passive investors, what you really want to be stressing to them is tax-free cash flow, right? Because you're going to get the cash flow, and you're going to get the loss on your K1 typically. And so you're not going to, I'll tell you how we're going to get the loss in a little bit, but you're going to get that. You're going to get money, but you're not going to have any tax ramifications. So that's what you really should be selling. Now, there's two other instances that you really need to keep in mind as a syndicator when you're dealing with passive investors. So the best passive investors that you can solicit and try to attract with tax benefits are ones that have existing capital gains from real estate in the year that you are trying to attract them. Because even if you're a passive investor, you can write off losses from bonus depreciation against capital gains from other real estate sales. So somebody who's just got out of a syndication with a big capital gain can go into a new syndication, get the bonus depreciation, and use that bonus depreciation to offset the capital gain from the syndication they just got out of. Or, and this happens quite a bit, I have clients who sell their properties, they have got a big capital gain, and they're like, well, can I 1031 into a syndication? And the answer to that question is typically no. If you want to be a limited partner, if you want to go in as a tenant in common, you may be able to do that. But if you typically you can't 1031 right into the syndicated entity. So, but you can invest as a passive investor in that syndicated entity and write off the bonus depreciation allocation that you get against the capital gain from the sale of that real estate. So that's a really important one as a syndicator to be looking for. You want to be looking for your passive investors who have big capital gains. Why? You have the solution to their problem, right? Bonus depreciation. The other passive investor that you want to look for is somebody who's got a lot of net rental income, right? And this happens a lot from the standpoint that you have investors out there who have mature portfolios, right? So they've taken the depreciation, maybe they've had the properties for 10, 15, 20 years. Now, the depreciation's gone, the mortgage interest is low, maybe they don't even have mortgages on the properties, so they've got a ton of net rental income. I run into this all the time. I have a guy who's got $150,000 a year of net rental income. Well, we put him in a syndication, and he gets that first year depreciation loss of $100,000. He can write that off directly against his other net rental income. So now instead of paying tax on 150, he's only paying tax on 50 because he was able to write off the $100,000 loss. So again, you have a solution to a problem. The two problems that you're looking for are passive investors with large capital gains and passive investors with large rental income. The same thing applies, by the way, to an active investor. And an active investor is just somebody who has a portfolio of properties and manages them themselves, right? And so you might run into that same scenario with active investors. The only difference with an active investor is if they make less than $150,000 a year in ordinary income, they're allowed to write off up to $25,000 a year of rental losses against their ordinary income. That's if you get the full $25,000 if you make less than $100,000 a year. Once you hit $150,000 a year of adjusted gross income, you're completely phased out of taking losses as an active investor. So if you're an active investor who, like I have a lot of clients who are like doctors and lawyers, and they have active rental properties, but they also make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. Well, they're active investors, but they can't write off any of their rental losses against their ordinary income because their income is too high. So essentially, they're passive investors. From a strict definition of ability to deduct rental losses against ordinary income. So they have the same problem, and they make really good syndication investors, right? Because all you're doing is trying to solve their their tax problem. I got a call from a guy I know, like literally at the end of the year. I mean, I think we were talking on the 30th of December, and he's like, I got $2 million of capital gains this year. What can I do? And I'm like, well, you need to find a syndication before tomorrow. Right? I'm like, I mean, you could have called me, in November with this problem. I probably would have had a better solution than call me literally, December 30th. I'm like, I'm an accountant. I'm not a magician, right? So it's, and then there's the third one is real estate professional. Right?
Hey, Ted.
Sorry.
Hey, this is Ankur. Just a quick question on the previous slide, this slide that you're on. So you talked about depreciation. Do you have any guidance on how to kind of ballpark, like, let's say you're looking at a property or you're trying to figure out like what would be the depreciation you can get for a particular year, and so you can estimate how much new portfolio, let's say, you must acquire to offset that depreciation. So is there like a kind of ballpark back of the napkin formula that you can recommend to look and come up with depreciation fairly easily?
Yeah, with multifamily, it's about 20%.
20.
Yeah. So if you've got to wipe out $1 million capital gain, you're looking at probably buying a $5 million property. Because typically what ends up happening is that if you do a cost segregation study, the national average for cost segregation on multifamily apartment buildings is about 24% reclassification, but you've got to take into account the land allocation. So on a $5 million property, you probably only allocate, you have to allocate something like $800,000 to the land. So you're really cost segregating, about $4 million to 25% of that is $1.05 million, give or take. So I would say about 20%, give or take, of the total purchase price is just a good round ballpark to use.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it differs with assets, with other assets too. So just as an example, not a lot of people know this, but mobile home parks, for example, are typically big cost segregation allocations because they're basically all land improvements, right? And they're 15-year. There's a lot of 15-year land improvements in mobile home parks. Hotels, like Vinney was just saying, he sold a hotel. Hotels not only have all of the same things a multifamily apartment building would have in a lot of respects, but they also have all the furniture and common area and all that kind of stuff. So different things will throw off different, but if you use 20%, you really can't go wrong.
Sure.
From a standpoint of being a real estate professional, so we're kind of hitting on this. So a real estate professional is allowed to deduct all their rental losses against their ordinary income, right? And in order to qualify as a real estate professional, you need to have at least 750 hours of active, working in your real estate business, and it's got to be more than 50% of what you do in total, right? So I consult with an endless number of people on how to get there, and the easiest way is to just be in the real estate business, right? So if you're a syndicator and you're not doing anything else, and you've got some rental properties and maybe you've got your real estate license or whatever, then it becomes really a no-brainer, right? You're a real estate professional, right? People who are just landlords, right? Just own rental properties, they're real estate professionals, right? Commercial, I'm a commercial broker. If I didn't have a CPA firm, I would be able to qualify, right? The other thing is that your spouse can qualify. So if you have a W-2 job, but you have a spouse that's interested in real estate, okay, then we can talk about how to get your spouse to qualify. And one of the easiest ways to get somebody to qualify, so there's a couple of easy ways. If they're involved in raising capital, if you're a syndicator and you're involved in raising capital, and you get your spouse involved in that and get her involved in looking at the properties and managing, maybe you have your own portfolio, and he or she is managing those properties, Running an Airbnb business is probably the fastest way for somebody who doesn't have a lot of investment properties to get to 750 hours, because it's management and time intensive. There's a lot of marketing and management and stuff that goes into that. So I typically will tell people, like, I've got several clients that are, high net worth W-2 people, and their spouse is interested in doing something. How can we do that fast? Airbnb property, short-term rentals, fastest way to get there, right? It should be an actual business that makes money, right? So I like when, if you're going to try to qualify, have a brokerage business, have a rental, property management business, even if you're managing your own properties and stuff. It should be something that actually makes money. You don't want to hang your real estate professional status on a business that has zero gross income. Right? A lot of people try to do that. I'm like, no, that's bad, right? That's just going to get you busted. People ask me all the time, what qualifies? All the activities related to the operation and marketing of your business qualify. Everything you do that's a function of operating your business. Does education count?
Yeah.
Typically, this is what I tell people. I wouldn't want to hang my hat on education, okay? But I will tell you, if I were to go to a seminar, if all of you go to your conferences and stuff, I wouldn't count the time that I'm sitting there listening to the speaker, but I certainly would count the time that I'm out in the hallway networking. Why? I'm marketing my business, right? I'm making contacts. I'm tracking that stuff. And not only am I tracking that stuff, but I'm keeping all of the business cards and all of the phone numbers and all of the, I saw Vinney and a couple of Raj, Rudra, and Harry in Orlando in October, right? And there was a lot of stuff going on in the hall of the convention hall. That was where most of the action was, right? Well, I kept all of those contacts. I had a guy come up to me and literally say, "I'm interested in talking with you." Literally grabbed my cell phone and put his contacts into my phone, right? It's those kind of things. Track all of those things. Keep track of all of that, because that's how you're proving that you're marketing your business, right? And then when I go to follow up with people, I keep track of all of that stuff. I'm not even trying to qualify as a real estate professional, and I keep track of that stuff, right? So when you're trying to qualify as a real estate professional, you're tracking the time that you're doing, and you're trying to keep as much of that backup information as you possibly can. So if you want to go and look at properties in Texas tomorrow, right? You say, okay, well, not only am I going to track the time that I'm spending looking at properties, I'm going to take pictures of every property. I'm going to keep the card of the agent that I met with, or the owner of the building that I met with. I'm going to keep any notes that I took while I was there. I'm going to keep my analysis that I did if I went to try to underwrite the property. All of those things, because I want as much backup as I possibly can get if I am ever called into an IRS office to prove my real estate professional status, right? The more stuff you have, you go in there with a time log and a big thick thing of backup, the IRS agent is they're not even going to look at your stuff. They're going to be like, okay, you qualify, see you later. You go in there with nothing, you're going to leave writing a check, right? So that's the way it is. The real estate businesses that typically qualify: development, redevelopment, construction, acquisition, conversion, raising capital, I put under acquisition, managing your own rentals, leasing, and real estate brokerage, all real estate related businesses that qualify for real estate professional status, right? So if you can qualify as a real estate professional, even if you can't, but if you can, these are some of the things that you want to know more about in order to take the maximum advantage of it. Because the goal is to maximize our rental losses in order to offset our ordinary income. And I'll just give you an example. I've got a client that I worked with last year, real estate broker, and he called me and he's like, Ted, I'm having a great year. It's like, I'm probably going to make about $1 million in commissions net. He's like, I think I want to buy it. I have an apartment building I'm looking at, and I want to buy it. And I'm, like the question I just answered, how much building do I need to offset my income? Well, in this case, he ended up buying about a $3 million building. He got something like $600,000 of cost segregation depreciation to offset it. So he was able to write off that $600,000 of first year depreciation against his $1 million worth of brokerage income, right? So now he's at $400,000, right? Then we took we actually took what's a defined contribution plan, and he ended up putting $150,000 into this plan, right? So he literally made $1 million, offset 600 of it with bonus depreciation. He put 150 into retirement and paid tax on $250,000, right? The net benefit of that is $250,000. The next tax benefit, net, what he actually saved, probably close to between $250,000 and $300,000 easily, right? And if you live this guy lives where I live in Connecticut, where we have state tax, but it's not California state tax, right, Vinney? Right? Yeah. So, you've got your tax is 10, your taxes are 10 points higher than ours, right? So, it could be in somewhere else that could be 40%, So, it's really worthwhile. So cost segregation is probably one of the tools that everybody, is using these days. And basically cost segregation is nothing more than hiring, a firm that basically has both they're called tax engineering firms, but they're basically an engineer and an appraiser. And they look at your building and they break out the component parts and they categorize them into four essential categories, right? You have your land allocation. So you're always going to allocate somewhere between 15 and 20% of the cost of the property to the land. If you're in an area where land values are very high, that might be higher. So if you live, if the building's in Malibu, right, you're going to have to put more on the land. But if it's somewhere in the Midwest, you're probably only taking 15%, right? Because the land value is relatively low. And then, so there's an allocation to the land. There's an allocation to what's called tangible personal property. Those are your 5-year assets. Tangible personal property, simply defined, is anything that I can unplug, unscrew, detach, and walk out of the building with, right? So think of a kitchen. Every apartment has a kitchen, right? So it's all of the appliances in the kitchen. It's the cabinets, the sink, the decorative lighting, shelving, all the things you would find in a kitchen. In the bathroom, it's the toilet, the tub, the vanity, the mirror, the lighting, shelving, all of that stuff. And so what the engineer does is they make a list of all of that stuff, and then the appraiser goes and he puts a value on all of it, and typically you get a value that's somewhere around, typically around 16 to 17% of the cost of the building. The other category is land improvements. So land improvements are the 15-year asset. They're everything outside the building that qualifies. Typically the parking lots, the landscaping, the sidewalks, the curbing, fencing, retaining walls, sewer lines, the infrastructure of the property. So those things are 15-year assets, and typically they're going to run somewhere between 8 and 10% of the cost of the property. 7 to 10%. And then the last one is the building, right? And the building is basically everything else, right? So it typically runs around 60% of the cost of the asset. And then 5-year and 15-year, anything allocated to 5-year or 15-year is subject to what's called bonus depreciation, which means in 2021 or in 2022, in 2021, we could write off 100% of the bonus depreciation, right? In 2022, the exact same thing. So on my $5 million building, if I get allocated $1 million worth of 5 and 15-year property, I get $1 million depreciation deduction in year one. And then I'm also going to depreciate the building. So I'm going to get something extra for the building also. The building is going to be depreciated over 27 and a half years. So I'm going to catch an extra depreciation on that. But the big write-off is that first year bonus depreciation on the 5 and 15-year assets. Now, this is going to start to phase out because when it was implemented with the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017, there was a sunset provision built into it. So starting in 2023, we're only going to get 80% bonus depreciation. 2024, 60%, 2025, 40%, 2026, 20%, and then in 2027, it's gone, right? Now, why is that important? Well, a lot of people have been selling their, the market's really hot. People are selling their assets, and then they're buying other assets. And if they can't do a 1031 exchange, what they are doing is using that 100% bonus depreciation to wipe out, or substantially wipe out the capital gains on the previous property, right? Well, the ability to do that is going to start decreasing in 2023, right? And it's going to be gone by 2027. So what we're looking at, in theory, is, unless there's a tax law change, is we're going to start having properties that were purchased in 2019, 2020, 2021 that are going to get sold in 2025, 2026, 2027. You're not going to be able to use that strategy anymore of huge bonus depreciation to be able to wipe out the capital gains. You're going to have to probably either use 1031 exchanges or there's some other options, but 1031 is the most prevalent one, and or pay the tax, right? And so I'm warning all of my, because I know all of my real estate investor friends, including myself sometimes, have, short memories when it comes to, when I'm going to owe taxes, right? And I just know that even if I warn somebody every year from now until 2027, in 2027, I'm going to get, what? I owe what? Right? And, I'll be like, I've been telling you this for 5 years that, you're going to have recapture on this stuff. So you have to remember that cost segregation is a time value of money play, right? Meaning it's just a deferral. It doesn't make, unless you 1031 exchange it, it doesn't make the gain go completely away, right? You're going to have to actually pay tax on that money when you sell the property, and you have to recapture not only all the depreciation you took, but then you're going to have the capital gain on top of it. So something to keep in mind, which is why, and one of the things that I specialize in is strategic tax planning. And when we do strategic tax planning, we're not just looking at 2020. When I'm doing tax planning for somebody, I'm not just looking at 2021. I'm looking at 2021, 22, 23, 24. We're projecting out, like, where, you own 10 properties, right? What are you're in 10, like you're the operator of 10 syndications. What's your life cycle on those? And where do you think you're going to sell them, right? And as Vinney can attest to, sometimes you can have a timeline in your head, but then you get an offer you can't refuse, right? And you have to, you end up selling the property before you actually intended to, right? So especially in this market, so you have to look at those things and say, what if I sell, what strategies are going to be available to me when, right? Because that may affect the timing of when you're selling assets. So always kind of keeping these things in mind. Abandonment study is actually part of cost segregation. What that typically refers to is, if I buy a property that requires me to do a lot of renovation, right? So I've got clients, I had a client last year bought a property in Kentucky that they literally, it was 200 units. They literally renovated every single one, right? They paid $7 million for the property. When they bought the property, they did a cost segregation study to determine what was the value of the things they were going to throw away when they did the renovation. They threw away $1.5 million worth of stuff, right? And this was documented as part of what they call, this is the cost segregation study that's called an abandonment study. So they documented the value of everything that was thrown away. So that syndication got to take $1.5 million ordinary loss on the stuff that went into the dumpster, right? Then they did a cost segregation study on all the new stuff, and they got the bonus depreciation on all the new stuff. So let's say we started with 7 million, we threw away $1.5 million. Now we're at $5.5 million basis. We put $2.5 million of new stuff into the property. Now we're at $8 million cost basis, right? So I'm going to get the $1.5 million write-off, and I'm going to be able to cost segregate all of the rest of the basis. It's like the double, it's like the grand slam of syndication. If you're going to renovate, if you're going to do that big of a renovation. Now, there's a lot of people who don't want to buy properties that require that much renovation. But if you're buying one, just know that exists, and you can give. And the important part is you can throw off losses to your partners that they can deduct. Even the limited partners can take the ordinary loss from abandonment. So we already talked about depreciation, why it's awesome. Depreciation, by the way, is nothing more than the rational allocation of the purchase price of the property. So that's all we're doing is just breaking it into its component pieces and expensing it right? We've already talked about disposal. When you're doing the disposal, so on a big property like what I was just talking about, you definitely want to do the cost segregation study. But this whole concept of deducting items that you dispose of during renovation also applies, by the way, if you're just doing, if you bought a fourplex somewhere for yourself, as your own, investment, and you're renovating it, you should be